vitally important. Not only do we need to be need to be accountable at work to our colleagues, to our manager, to our team members, but we also have to be accountable in our home lives, to our partners, to our spouses, to our friends, to our families, in our communities. We need to be accountable in our relationships with one another. And very often we don't think about accountability being linked to our goals. So often at the beginning of the year, we set these marvelous goals for ourselves. We want to achieve great things, but sadly, we don't always achieve them because we lack accountability. We lack the ability to actually follow through with our actions. We also lack accountability when it comes to personal things like our health and fitness. And so today I think it's vitally important to look at, why is accountability important? Why is it important to take responsibility for one's own actions? And I guess the key thing for me is that when we take responsibility, the outcomes, the benefits are incredible. It's important because if you want to have positive relationships with family members and friends, they've got to know that they can count on you. It leads to better social interactions. It means that instead of allowing excuses to rule your life, all of a sudden you can start to achieve your goals. And when you are accountable at work, all of a sudden you have a much more trusted relationship with your manager and your boss. They feel that they can count on you no matter what. You become indispensable in the workplace. So let's explore, how would you actually develop personal accountability? Let's take a look at the workplace. And in order to demonstrate this, I'd love us to share this short video with you. Thabo, if you wouldn't mind just confirming that sound is good. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
Thabo, can you hear?
I can't hear anything on my side, Val.
My apologies. Let me just quickly reshare my slides. Apologies. There we go. There was a little bit of system audio problems. So let's reshare these slides. It should now be working. Right. Let's take a listen.
Loud and clear.
I hope you enjoyed that short video. And I guess it's so vitally important to develop this culture of accountability at work, because it starts with knowing and understanding your role. It's got to be crystal clear. You know, if your boss has saying to you, this is your job, you need to understand fully what that role entails. And trust me, there's always, you know, a sort of level of respect I have for people who say, I need help. Can you clarify? I'm not quite sure. I love it when people ask for help and they're honest in terms of saying, it's not quite clear. Can you explain this to me in a little bit more detail? And then when things happen, now life isn't smooth sailing. There are going to be times where you mess up, where you fail, where you drop the ball. But you've got to be able to have the ability to admit to mistakes. You know, I think that is most probably one of the things I admire most in a work environment, is when somebody can say, I messed up. I'm taking accountability. I did this wrong. I did this wrong, and this is why I failed. Having that ability versus saying, I'm just going to try and pretend, you know, that it didn't happen. I'm not going to admit to that mistake. And then if you're given a project, to be able to use your time effectively and wisely so that you can actually accomplish a project. And if you're not going to accomplish it in the given time, to once again admit and ask for an extension. Procrastination is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to accountability. And many people struggle with procrastination. And, you know, the best thing I can tell you about procrastination is that you are not a procrastinator. You simply have the habit of procrastinating. And every habit can be learned and unlearned. So procrastination actually comes from stress. We procrastinate, we put something off because we're feeling stressed and anxious about that task. Years ago, I went to a life coach, and that life coach said to me, Val, if you're thinking about it, you should be doing it. Best advice I was ever given, because she identified that if I was thinking about it, it's on my mind, it's playing on my mind, it's stressing me out. If I just get started and do it, I'm going to feel less stress. So when you start to procrastinate, what I found is a very useful tool is you've got to acknowledge. You've got to say, uh-oh, I'm procrastinating again, and count backwards. Say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now why am I procrastinating? Why? Maybe I'm feeling scared that I don't have the ability or skills, or maybe it's a job I don't like doing. Maybe I don't want to make that call. Maybe I don't want to have that conversation. But acknowledging first and foremost, recognizing it, and then the golden rule is just do it. The Nike saying, just do it. Say to yourself, I'm going to do it just for 5 minutes. I'm just going to start the conversation. I'm just going to start the assignment. Or I'm just going to start the project. I'm going to work on it for 5 minutes. Now, research has shown that when you get started on something, guess what? You complete it. 85% of people, once they get started on something, they then have the ability to complete it. So that's very important. And try and under-promise and over-deliver. Don't say it can be done today if it's going to take you 48 hours. It's impossible. Don't put yourself under that pressure. Be realistic, under-promise and over-deliver. And then reflection. So important. At the end of every day, at the end of every week, at the end of every month, at the end of every year, reflection is important. And my best advice around reflection is the words, what do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? And what should I continue doing? Stop, start, continue. 3 powerful words that can guide your reflection. In my life, what do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? And finally, what do I need to continue doing? So being accountable is not easy. Let me not tell you it is, because it's not. Because basically the buck stops with you. You can't say, well, yeah, I'm going to be accountable, but actually it's my sister's responsibility, or it's my boss's responsibility, or, oh my goodness, it's my husband or my wife's responsibility. It's tough to say, the buck stops with me, this is my responsibility. And inevitably, what we like to do is we like to make excuses. I would have done that, but I can't because I'd be there if. And think about successful people for a minute. Think about the people you know that you admire that are successful. Think about that person. Do you have that picture of that person in your mind? I certainly do. And let me tell you, that person never makes excuses. That person doesn't. They just take accountability. They don't say, well, I would have worked, but there was no electricity. What they say is, yeah, there was no electricity, but I found a different place to work, for example. They just don't. They just take full accountability and they don't allow excuses to rule their lives. So I love these two quotes about excuses. Tony Robbins says there are only two options: make progress or make excuses. Very powerful. And then the second quote, if it is important to you, you will find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. There have been thousands, literally thousands of our students who have registered to sign up for a course. They didn't find an excuse not to take the course. They took the leap of faith and they signed up for a course. No excuse. It was hard. It was tough. They had to make sacrifices. But at the end of the day, they reaped the rewards of completing their studies. There are only two options: make progress or make excuses. I read an incredible story about a young girl who grew up in a township environment in a shack. During lockdown, she wrote her matric. Now, there were a lot of excuses she could have had for not performing. They were in lockdown. She didn't go to school. There was no connectivity. There were no computers. There was no laptop. There was no classes. There were thousands of reasons why she would not succeed. But she decided that within herself, she wanted to take responsibility and accountability. She finished her matric and received 5 distinctions. Now, that is something I think is truly amazing. So without a doubt, in order to sometimes achieve things, and I know up until now, I've really spoken a lot about accountability being about you taking responsibility. It's you, it's you, it's you. But actually, very often in life, we can't achieve things without the support and help of those around us. Wouldn't you agree? I can honestly tell you, I wouldn't be the person I am today without my mother. What an incredible role model she's been in my life. Without my husband, who has often stood by me when I needed to make sacrifices and work long hours. He took over some of the responsibility for parenting, for example. So in life, it's not just about you. And in life, when we want to achieve things, we need a partner, we need support. And that support comes in the form of what we call an accountability partner. An accountability partner. So let's take a listen and learn a little bit about what is an accountability partner and why an accountability partner can help you on your journey to success. Thabo, if you wouldn't mind just confirming that sound is good.
Okay.
We are not accountable to ourselves. Like we are accountable to others. As social animals, we feel
Yeah, I
responsibility.
can hear it clear now.
Whenever we know that someone's watching, even when it's just ourselves watching, we do a better job. Now, for just about everyone, accountability is helpful.
I can wake up in the morning and always come up with an excuse why I shouldn't go for a run today. Always, right? Sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm bad at it. But when I have a running buddy and they're waiting for me, I don't want to let them down.
Every case study I've ever seen on this subject points to the same thing. A culture of accountability has a direct correlation to the bottom line. Nothing else matters without it.
You have to develop accountability in your life. Positive accountability is accountability.
I'm just going to pause it for 1 second because I'd like to ask Tabo to please mute all participants, because unfortunately the sound is not good unless we all muted. Right, let's continue watching.
One person working with another.
But accountability is absolutely critically crucial to obligers. Obligers depend on structures of external accountability to get things done. So if you're an obliger or you're working with someone who's an obliger, just remember that you have to have those forms of external accountability.
If I'm by myself, I'll come up with an excuse. It's better to protect my muscles today so I can run tomorrow. I'll come up with some great rationalization that makes total sense. And so we're accountable to each other.
Because if people don't care enough, or they're not holding themselves and others accountable to accomplish the mission, then execution is going to falter anyway.
Just important to know what works for you. What kind of accountability works for you? What kind of structures do you need to put into place so that you can keep the habits that work for you?
Yeah. And so the whole point of having other people invested in whatever work you're doing means you're more likely to do it, not because of you, but you don't want to let them down.
Right.
So that's the value of an accountability partner.
The more time we spend holding ourselves accountable to meeting our goals, exceeding our goals, doing our jobs.
80% of us are not self-starters, and we need a little help until we learn to become self-starters. Positive accountability is that help. Accountability is the person like you're going, oh my goodness, you know what? I have to tell my accountability partner, and they're going to be really disappointed in me. And they're going to look at me, and they're going to say, you're better than that. Finding and using an accountability partner will help you start sooner down your path towards success.
So I certainly found that incredibly true. And I can honestly tell you that if you find an accountability partner, a person who helps you and holds you accountable for the things that you need to do, your life will become more successful. So a personal story is, I'm not good at exercise. Let me just be honest. I'm useless at exercise and running, and I will find any excuse under the sun why I shouldn't exercise. So about 10 years ago, I was at a party and I was sort of dared to run a marathon, a half marathon, 21 kilometers. Now, I'm overweight, I've never run before, I don't even have a pair of running shoes, and I am lazy when it comes to running. In any event, I take this bet and I don't like to lose bets. So I decide, right, I need to start running. So I get the shoes and I start to try and do it on my own, and I fail. I fail badly. Every morning when I'm supposed to wake up early to go running and the alarm wakes me up, I've got an excuse. Oh, my legs are sore, my back is sore. There's a reason for me not achieving that, not getting out there and doing it. And what I needed to do was I needed to find an accountability partner. So I enlisted the help of one of my friends, and we would agree to meet on the corner every day at 5:15 in the morning. Now, because she was on the corner, when I woke up at 5:45 in order to get ready to meet her, I couldn't send her a message. We made the deal. We were not allowed to cancel on one another. So I knew she was going to be on that corner with or without me. And because of that accountability partner, guess what? I did it. And I ran the 21 kilometers and it felt good. People often share that in order to improve their spiritual lives or their work lives, they need somebody that they need to be accountable to. Why do you think study groups are so effective? Because when we have a study buddy, somebody who we're accountable to, we're able to achieve great things. They're not going to take our excuses. So an accountability partner helps us improve our lives and make our lives better. They enable us to stay on track and they help improve us. So remember that wonderful saying by Jim Rohn. He says, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So ask yourself, who am I surrounding myself with? Am I surrounding myself with positive people? Or am I surrounding myself with negative people? Am I surrounding myself with successful people? Or am I surrounding myself with failures? And if you're surrounding yourself with negative people and failures, guess what? They're going to have an impact on you. And if you surround yourself with people who are going to see the glass as half full, not half empty, who are going to encourage you, who are going to be positive about your goals and your aspirations, guess what? You're going to basically be that much more positive, that much more really able to achieve your goals and dreams. Right, so before we go any further and take a look at responsibility versus accountability, I'd love to open the floor to any questions you may have. I can see Dimakatso, your hand is up. Do you have a question? Dimakatso, you can take yourself off mute and then you can share your question with us. At the moment, you're on mute. No, I can't hear you yet, Dimakatso. Or you can type your message in the chat function. Feel free to type your message in the chat function and then we'll handle your message. You will handle that question. And then secondly, I see Rose has her hand in the air. Rose, do you have a question? Please feel free to unmute yourself, Rose, and to share your question. And Dimakatso, please feel free to send your message through to us or your question through to us. Are there any questions at this point? Any questions?
Oh, yes, Val.
Posting now? Okay, cool. Okay, Dimakatso will wait for your question and then we'll answer it, because sometimes if you know you've got a question, it's better for us to answer that question now versus you waiting until the end, because it's going to be on your mind. So I'd love to be able to answer that question. Great. Let's have a look. You've posted it. Thabo, can you see Dimakatso's message? Oh, what do you do if you don't have an accountability partner, Dimakatso? Great question. So you find one. You've got to find one, Dimakatso. You can do it on your own. So in life, it is all about taking responsibility. Having a partner is just going to fast track your success. So you want to ask yourself, is there somebody at work that you really admire that you can ask to have that type of relationship with? Is there somebody in your community that you can check in with? And if you can't, is there somebody in your family that you admire and would like to get their involvement with? You need to ask them. You need to speak up and ask them. If there isn't anybody, you know, we need to find you somebody who you can relate to. I hope that answers your question. Thanks, Dimakatso. Okay, so let's take a look at responsibility versus accountability. And we're going to take a listen to the short video. Let's watch and see.
So let's take a look. Accountability versus responsibility. What is the difference? Well, I hear this a lot. Well, when you're accountable, you're kind of
the sound is a little bit low, Val.
Okay, let me fix it. Thank you. I'm just gonna, Thabo, can you mute everybody just so we can make sure that the sound is good? And let's take a listen. And let's hope this works. Okay.
So let's take a look.
Is that better?
Accountability versus responsibility. What is the difference?
Well,
I hear this a lot. Well, when you're accountable,
it's still a little bit low.
Kind of responsible.
Unfortunately, that's as good as it gets.
Accountable, right? Yes.
Okay.
The way I try to illustrate it is with a simple story. We hire people and we have responsibilities in the job descriptions, right? So imagine I was hired to keep this room clean, all right? And in my responsibilities, they were very clear. There were 3 things that I was hired to do. 1, organize the chairs after every meeting. 2, make sure the tables are clear of everything. And 3, vacuum the floor. If I do those.
So basically, let me summarize if the sound isn't great. He's describing an environment where, let's say he hires somebody and their job is to keep a certain venue clean. And their job is to vacuum the room, to clear up tea and coffee things, and to make sure that the room is clean at all times. So the story goes on is that say you're doing all of those things, but you arrive at work one day and the vacuum cleaner has blown. Now, in your responsibilities or in your role, it doesn't say you're responsible for fixing vacuum cleaners. So you go, oh, okay, well, the vacuum cleaner's broken, so I can't do the job. And really what accountability is saying, right, it's my job to make sure that the vacuum cleaner is working. So you report it to facilities, you get the vacuum cleaner fixed in order to enable you to do your job. And that's the big difference between what are you responsible for and what are you accountable for. So I hope that that story is, valuable to you. So in order to really illustrate for you the importance of accountability or how people can use accountability to change their lives, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to my colleague, Lerato, who's going to share her story of accountability with you. Over to you, Lerato.
Thank you so much, Val. Good morning, everyone. So just to give you a quick background, I started working at Academy of York in 2012, June 2012. I was hired as a student advisor. Well, I love talking to people. I love helping people. So I had natural ability. I loved my job and I did well. I became a top performer. I met my targets and I was very happy with my income. That went on for a couple of years, but something changed. My performance started to drop, and it dropped to a point where I was one of the low performers. I was unhappy. I was confused. I was like, what exactly is happening here? Because I'm a top performer. I should be making my targets. It did not make sense to me what was happening. So, I started to think, what could it be? Obviously, it's not me because I have ability. I've done this before, so I don't understand what is this, what is going on. So what I thought about is, where am I going wrong? I came up with excuses. Like, no, it can't be me. It's not me. I know what I'm doing. It's the leads I'm getting. The people don't want to study. People don't want to study right now. Can't be me. No. But then, I started to think, what exactly is going on? Because now what was happening is my health also started to take a turn. I started getting sicker. My happiness levels dropped because, when you're not happy and you don't understand what's going on, relationships started getting affected. I went into a depression because my job is that it's the chances of me keeping a job like that where you need to be making targets and you're not is less and less the more months you start missing it tough. And my finances were affected because I wasn't earning as much more money as I was used to. I had to do a reflection. I had to see what was going on. So I thought, this has to be a cycle because what's going on is my health is deteriorating. Everything's going, what is it? And honestly, I had to sit down and be real. And I find that the reason why I'm in this vicious circle is me, nobody else. It's not the leads, it's not anybody, it is me. So what I did is I said, first thing, what am I doing? First thing, I'm going to the doctor. Let me go find out what is going on here. And did tests, diagnosed, got medication, started seeing what am I eating, how am I exercise, not good at exercising, but at least I tried to work on the food. And I started realizing things are changing. I've got more energy. and I've got more concentration. Like, okay, this feels more like me. What happened? My productivity started to increase, and I was like, yes. I was starting to perform at work again, right to top performer level, where I belong, I believe. And you know, I started being happier. Finance, money started rolling in because I was making my targets. My bosses were with me along this whole journey, and they also started to realize what was happening, you know. And then I got a promotion in 2017 from being a student advisor to being a team leader, followed by another promotion 2 years later to sales manager. So my advice to you is, when things are not working in your life, we normally start with what? It's them, it's this, it's not me, it's the weather, it's that, you know, that's how it's affecting me. But actually we're doing it the wrong way. You start with the why. Why is this happening? Once you are able to really sit down with yourself, analyze the situation, see the realness, the truthness, take accountability, that is when you're going to start seeing changes in your life. Thank you so much. Over to you, Val.
Wow, well done, Lerato. I know that it is hard sometimes to share your story, but what a powerful story of accountability. What a powerful story to take responsibility for the reasons why things weren't going right in your life and what you needed to do in order to turn your life around. And sometimes it's really hard to understand, why is it that things aren't going well? And I do believe that by starting with your health, with your physical being, with why do you not have enough energy? Why are you not able to do the work that you're able to do? Once you feed your body and nurture yourself physically, properly, and get medical help if needed, you have the energy to be able to start to achieve great things. So I'm often asked, is accountability a skill or a talent? So let's just recap. What is the difference between a skill and a talent? Well, firstly, a skill is something you learn. A talent is something that is God-given. You just naturally have that talent. So confidence is both a talent and a skill, because you can be born being a confident person, but you can also be born not having confidence and having to build your own personal confidence. And I can honestly say to you that accountability is a self-driven skill. When you work on taking accountability for yourself, your life, your goals, your studies, your future, you feel good. You learn to trust yourself. And everybody loves somebody that they can trust. We all want to have that person in our lives that when we ask them to do something, they do it. So when you start to trust yourself, you start to realize that you are, able to achieve and accomplish great things. And so by being accountable, by owning your life, you're able to transform your life one step at a time. It's not easy, but the buck stops with you. And so the 40 minutes of our learning segment now comes to an end, and we're going to open the floor to any questions that you may have. We would love your feedback on our Menti polling system. I'm going to ask my colleague and co-host Thabo to send us the link, and I'm going to ask you either to please send us your questions on the chat function, or unmute yourself and raise your hand. We would love to hear what questions you have. So Thabo, over to you for seeing who has questions. I think at the moment we have a couple people with their hands in the air.
Yes, I had two people with their hands up, Rose and Gallivant. Rose, you can unmute yourself and then you can ask the question now. Oh, while we wait for Rose or Gallivant, I've got a question, Val, just to break the ice. If you have a team, you're managing at work, wherever in the project, how do you teach them accountability? Even your kids at home, how do you teach them accountability?
That's a brilliant question. How do you teach somebody accountability? So I think firstly, the best advice I can give you is to catch them when they're good. So for example, let's say you've got a child and he or she tidies their room and they're being accountable for their room and keeping their room tidy. You want to acknowledge that and, you know, just say, well done, thank you for doing that, well done. Or if they take their plates through in the evening and take sort of ownership for washing the dishes at night, catch them while they're good, compliment them, build them up. Really acknowledge when somebody does something that is positive and that reflects taking ownership. The second thing I would do is I would really have the conversation, especially with teenagers and adult children, in terms of goal setting. And then really, if they set a goal for themselves, ask them whether they need you to be their accountability partner and to hold them accountable for reaching that goal. So let's say you've got a child who really wants to become a soccer player. That's their dream. They want to be a soccer player. You want to ask them, well, how are you going to become a top soccer player? And they're going to say, well, maybe I need to practice. So as you being their accountability partner, you're going to really encourage them to practice those skills in order to improve their skills. So I would definitely say setting those goals vitally important, asking them whether you can be their accountability partner. That really works well with your children. When it comes to colleagues at work, I would definitely say having an honest conversation with somebody about how maybe their lack of accountability has an impact on you. So for example, if you and another person have to work on a project together and they're not putting in the work, is to have that honest conversation and to ask them, you know, whether they need help or guidance, or why is it that they're not owning that. And so I would definitely say be honest, have the conversation, ask whether they need help, clarify what the role is and how potentially if you work together better, how their work has an impact on you and vice versa. And I think sometimes having those honest discussions can really help you then get on the same page in order to then work together more effectively. I hope that answers your question, Thabo.
Oh, definitely. I love that. I love the acknowledgement part, you know, if somebody is doing well and then guiding them into the right path. I really love that. We've got the Makato raising their hands. If Gallivant wanna goes first before the Makato can actually ask that question.
Okay. Miss, I heard you were saying that accountability means when someone did right at home, you should congratulate him or her. Yeah, I heard that. But the thing that I just need, I think maybe we can have WhatsApp group so that we can communicate some other questions and then, yeah, something like that. That is my idea. I don't know about you guys. Yeah,
Gallivant, I love that idea. I love that idea. I think that so often WhatsApp and technology is a great way of holding yourself and others accountable, because it's so fast and it's quick and it's easy to have a group of people connected on a WhatsApp group, and you have similar goals and desires, and to be able to share ideas and be positive with one another, you know, send each other memes to lift each other up. So I think using technology in accountability partnership is a brilliant, brilliant way to work better together. I see there's a couple of comments, and Taba Singh says, accountability means getting up and pushing yourself no matter how difficult. It starts with acceptance. Stop blaming the surroundings. I wish I could tell my story. Ntaba Singh, I would love you to tell your story. The floor is yours if you would like to share your story with us.
I don't know if you can hear me. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ntaba Singh.
Can you hear me?
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, my name is Ntaba Singh, like everybody knows. My story is a bit emotional, but I think it's the one that keeps me going each and every day. My mother passed away at the age of 17. While I was age 17, she left me with 2 siblings, the other one 5, the other one 9. I have to raise them by myself. I didn't have a choice. I need to wake up, I need to go to work for them. I felt sorry for myself. I couldn't do anything. But because of I have to push myself each and every day without blaming the surroundings around me, I ended up being a manager at one of the biggest companies in the country. After that, I've studied and I've managed to be an IT manager. But because of I did see that was not my calling, I decided to resign from the company. I felt sorry for myself for the past 5 years. I couldn't wake up. I was blaming my husband for everything. I was having a hatred to the kids like I was somebody else. I was like short-tempered in everything. But now came last year, December, then I decided if I do this to myself, I'm going to be killing myself because now I'm having a heart problem. The doctor said to me, I'm obese. I need to do something about it. So I decided, you know what? Let me stop it and stop blaming the surroundings around me. I need to change it. I have to accept my situation. This is me. I have to deal with it. So today I'm here, I'm starting, which is what I wanted to do about 5 years ago, but I couldn't because I keep on coming with the excuses. I don't have money, I don't have time to study, but that's not. I have to make time and have money. Here I am today. Thank you, everybody.
Ntaba Singh, wow, what a story of such courage, of such adversity, losing your mother so young. You've moved me to tears. You know, what courage. And the fact that in that adversity, in that loss, you got up and you moved forward. And then the reality is, guys, that life isn't perfect. Your next challenge reared its head a number of years later. And yet, once again, you pulled yourself towards yourself. You took ownership of your life and you're moving forward. And I think that sharing those stories of hardness, adversity, failure even, and then overcoming that is just so powerful, because your story of accountability has the power to change the next person's life. It's so powerful. Just like Lorato's story, maybe is talking to somebody who's also struggling at work and not doing well at work. Take ownership, stop making excuses. And Ntaba Singh waking up and saying, I'm taking ownership of my life, my health, my weight, my family, my responsibility. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I think you've inspired many, many of us. Right, the comments from the group is like, great story. I was reluctant and I've learned that our biggest fear is taking a leap of faith. And I think that that is so true. And I think that opening the floor for you to have your questions, share your stories is really what it's all about, because in sharing your stories, I think you gain a sense of validation, but you also are able to inspire others. Right, do we have any other questions, Thabo?
I've got something interesting here from Moses. It's not really a question, but he's saying he's been ignoring the invites to the webinar session from the start, but I think it's his first one today. He found it very powerful. You know, it's so powerful. He'd actually love to get certificates from these sessions and actually add them into his resume. You know, so this is quite interesting.
Awesome. Well, Moses, welcome. I'm so glad you joined us today. And yeah, Tabasing, once again, lots of people saying well done and thank you for sharing and inspiring us with your story, and clapping for you and saying, wow, what a story to tell. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Let me see. I just saw a hand going up.
I have a question that I'd like to ask while you are working on that. I'd like to ask Lerato. Lerato, when through the process of acknowledging that you were sort of responsible and that you needed to make some changes in your own life in order to start to achieve, was it easy or was it tough? I mean, you sort of said, okay, so I acknowledged it was my health was the problem. Was it an easy ride? There's some highs and lows.
Well, it was definitely not easy because you don't want to admit to yourself. It's easier to blame. It's easier to blame other people or the circumstances I'm under. You know, for you to be able to point the finger and say, actually, I'm the one who's responsible for all of this mess. It's not easy to say that to yourself. And I think that's where, you know, that's where the turning point is. But it's not easy at all. Because who wants to admit that they're failing? Don't want to admit that you're failing. So for me, it took a while. It was not easy.
So you don't just wake up one morning and say, oh, it was me. And then once you acknowledge that it is you, it's once again a process, because then I think you've got to look at your habits and what are you doing wrong and be guided by maybe a mentor to help get you back on track. And I love, you know, that quote, we are what we do. Excellence is not a single act, it's a habit. And so it's about consistency, you know, constantly working on yourself. And I don't think that that habit ever stops. I think that working on yourself is a lifelong journey. But in order to work on yourself, you need to know what you need to work on. So, you know, maybe your listening skills aren't great. In order to improve listening skills, you've got to work on it. Maybe you have a habit of wasting time or procrastinating. You've got to acknowledge the problem first, and then you've got to work on changing your habits. And changing habits isn't easy. It's like a process. What are some of your habits that you started to use in order to really have the success stories? Because to go from zero to hero, it must be about habits.
Definitely is, well, and I think for me, believe it or not, my I would say, actually I'm going to call them accountability partners, was my boss. My boss made sure I take my medication. Every month I had to have my medication. I had to show him I've got medication. You know, he had to help me with that. And I was being held accountable, I believe. I think maybe if I tried to do it on my own, I would have failed a couple of times. But because I had that support and that, you know, how's it going? You know, how's your health? How's this? And I had somebody who I felt was in my corner. I was able to fight better. And so that's when you start developing those type of the good habits that I needed. It's not easy because there will be some days where you still default. But I believe the most important thing is consistency, because I think the more you do it, the easier it starts getting. And once you start seeing the small results, that's what pushes you to move further. I think those small little positive results will actually motivate you. And so that you're able to actually give yourself more pressure and say, you know what, if I could do this, I can do more. And you are more accountable to your actions and you become more successful.
So you definitely felt having an accountability partner, and I love the way she explains it as somebody in your corner. I immediately think of like Fight Club, or having your coach in your corner saying, okay, you can go out there, left hook, right hook, this is what you need to do, fight back, you deserve it. So vitally important to have that coach, mentor, somebody in your corner, but also that somebody also pushing back and saying, take ownership, you need to do it. You need to look after yourself. It all starts with you. Right, do we have any other questions? I think we've only got 5 minutes remaining. Gallivant, lovely comment. Fear can pull us down. We always fear what we don't know. If it was not easy, but hey, we are human, we learn, we make mistakes, we get challenges. That's so, so true. Vitally, vitally true. Thank you for that comment. You're 100% right.
Oh, yes. And then we have Moses' hand up.
Moses, over to you. What question do you have?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Moses.
Moses.
How are you?
Hello.
I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for this platform and thank you for sharing such powerful testimonies and also the coaching. Thank you, Val, Mr. Tavo. Thank you, sir. My question is our habits only the only strategy or something that we can use for maintenance? Because habits are something that will help us to be accountable. They will teach us to be able to do that which we were not able to do. So my question is this the only strategy that can help us to maintain? How do we keep on maintaining being accountable people and also being able to transfer that to the people that we are maybe in the workplace, maybe at home, even friends, because we have friends that we have in our life and that they are struggling. So how is the only thing that we can use, or maybe use for change, for maintenance, especially maintaining that attitude of being accountable?
So I was losing you a little bit. I think you were saying, is it just habits? What else can we do apart from habits at work? How can we become more accountable? Am I hearing you correctly, Moses?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. So, Moses, I'm going to presume you're working. Are you working?
Yes, I am.
Okay, awesome. So how do you become more accountable at work? I really want you to reach out to your manager, and I really want you to say to your manager, I want to improve. I want to be able to go forward in this company. I'm passionate about my job. I'm grateful for my job, but I want to improve. And in order to improve, I want you to advise me, what am I doing? What is my SWOT? What are my personal strengths? What are my personal weaknesses? What are the opportunities and what are ways in which are a threat to me? What am I doing that's a threat to me? And to have that honest conversation with your boss, I think is very powerful, because your boss is going to clearly define your role. He'll also give you, or she'll give you, positive feedback in terms of what are you doing right, your strengths, and that's going to build you up. You're going to feel good. But hopefully they also give you a sandwich technique. He's going to give you one, or she's going to give you 1 or 2 areas that you're weak at. Then it's your choice in terms of whether you're willing to work on those weaknesses. And it's hard to hear you might need to do this or this better, but that's where the opportunity lies. If you work on those weaknesses, if you improve, then where are you going to go to? What is the next step? So really have that honest conversation with your manager, get that feedback, and don't wait for your manager to call you in. Be proactive and say, I want to improve. I want to be more accountable. I want to grow. What would be your 3 best tips that you want me to implement? What can I do differently? And in the workplace, if you lead the conversation, it's a very different conversation to your boss saying, I want to have a chat to you, Moses. Because normally when your boss calls you to have a chat to you, it's not positive, it's negative, right? So you're going to flip it on its head and you're going to ask for proactive feedback, and you're going to take that feedback, you're going to create a plan, and you're going to work the plan. The best people in any organization are those that make themselves indispensable. And they make themselves indispensable, like your boss can't live without you, Moses, when you are your best version of yourself. So good luck on that conversation and on your journey. Right. Tobo, you're on mute. You're still on mute. Now you're not on mute. Over to you, Tobo. Sorry, Tobo, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yay! We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I was just saying wonderful feedback, Val. On behalf of Moses and the rest of us, we really appreciate that answer. We 1 minute over our time. Yeah, it's almost the end of our session. It's actually the end of our sessions. Anybody who's got questions, please keep them on the chat function. It's gonna stay here forever. Thank you very much, Lerato. What a wonderful story. What a powerful story. We really appreciate it. For the other guys, the session is always once a month on the 10th. Just make sure to tune in. Val, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Just thank you, Tobo, for being a great host as per usual, for keeping it all together, for communicating the message. Wisdom Wednesdays, don't forget, every week, once a month, middle of the month normally. Next session we look forward to in April. Yeah, never stop improving. Thanks so much for sharing your stories, Lerato. Thank you so much. So brave. For each and every one of you, appreciate your time. Have a fabulous day. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Sabu. Sabu. Can you hear me, guys?